Hello and welcome to my first X Wing tips video. So yeah, I'm no pro by any means, but I've participated in a few tournaments, and because of the nature of the game, right, I've versed players of all types of skill levels, right? Ones that are extremely high. I mean, going to Sith Takers tournaments and stuff, and obviously people just learning the game and stuff. So yeah, take my advice with a grain of salt. But I think it'd just be cool to just go from the absolute beginning and perhaps, show someone with this video as a reference, uh, how to get into the game as quickly as conveniently and hopefully not boring as possible. Like, provide interesting information about this game. Here we have the iconic Luke Skywalker versus Darth Vader. Obviously iconic, right? This is the kind of miniatures you'll be playing with in this game. So there's 7 factions. Just gonna bring up a list. So actually, first of all, Luke is obviously uh, Resistance. Well, yeah, Luke is obviously Resistance. Darth Vader is Empire. So once again, there are 7 factions in this game. Let me just go run by the list. First Order, Galactic Empire, Galactic Republic, Rebel Alliance, Resistance, Scum and Villainy, Separatist Alliance. Notice Scum and Villainy, that's one word. It's just basically just scum. I'm going to paint a picture of how traditional miniature games work. So to win in these miniature games, you need to accumulate a certain level of points, usually from objectives that say once you reach, a certain level of points, you win the game. So how would this work? Let's take an example from another game. Imagine another player controls a human soldier, right? And another player controls a big, scary ogre. Let's say also that there's an objective in the middle where if you're near it, you gain points, which eventually lead to you getting the points you need to win the game. If the human soldier and the ogre meet together in the middle, what do you think is going to happen? The ogre is going to smack the hell out of the human soldier. So you have to think more tactically of how can you get the points, right? So how does that apply to this game? The unique thing about this game is that killing ships give you points, right? And they can give you massive points. Obviously, contesting the objective is still vital, but yeah, if you actually manage to get the right attacks through, you can 100% just win by killing ships and getting a larger advantage. So to win in this game, you need 20 points. And before the game even starts, you need to construct a roster of 20 points worth of ships. So to give you context, Darth Vader is 6 points, Luke Skywalker is 5 points. There are 4 phases in this game, or I think at least 5. So there is the planning phase, the system phase, the activation phase, the combat phase, and the end phase. So let's get into it. It's quite simple once you start going through the steps, but it just takes time and repetition to really know what you're doing and stuff. But I'm gonna try and make this as simple as it could possibly be. So in this game, we the first thing we do is plan out our movements. So you sneakily try and do a movement, which could be like going extreme to the left or right, or just going straight. These two ships are just gonna go straight as much as they can. So, yeah. Now we look at, so once we do the planning phase and we both say, you know, both put up a thumbs up and we've all planned out all the movements of our ships, now we move on to the action phase. So yeah, we have to reference the pilot skill. So the pilot skill is at the top middle, right next to the name. So Darth Vader has the highest pilot skill in the game, which is a 6. And Luke has a pilot skill which is still good, a 5. So how this game works is the player with the higher the higher pilot skill attacks first, but the player with the lowest pilot skill moves first, activates first. So activation phase, Luke has a 5, Darth Vader has a 6, so he activates first. Luke is going to reveal his dial and do a free strike. Alright, now he can take an action. So he's moved and now he can take an action. If we look at his actual card in the bottom middle, we have focus, target lock, barrel roll. So we're just going to go through what all of that does. So focus. So yeah, these tokens, right, they help you when you're starting to roll dice. They help you have more consistent and better results, right? So focus is good on defense and offense. Target lock is like committal to offense. And then barrel roll makes you do a little nudge to the left and right. Right, it's going to put them forward. So to keep things simple, he's going to choose to do a focus, and that is his part of the phase done. So to go back to where we start from, Luke had a lower pilot skill, so he activates first. He moves, then he does an action on the action bar, which is one of the 3. He chose to do a focus, which helps him on either attack or defense to change his dice. Alright, now it's Darth Vader's turn to activate. So Darth Vader does a 5 straight. Then Darth Vader is going to do a target lock as his action. Let's assume he's a bit closer. So usually, if you actually don't have him in your target lock, this action whiffs, and you basically did nothing. So that's like kind of like the position variant of the game. So nudging Luke forward a bit. Alright, so Darth Vader's going to take a target lock, which is the most aggressive thing you can do, really. So both players have moved. They've chosen an action on the action bar. Now we move to the combat phase, right? The shooting phase. So notice how Luke activated first. But now this is advantageous for Darth Vader. He's going to flip this resources over. So whoops. Darth Vader's going to shoot first. So Darth Vader is going to attack. So in this game, there's something called firing arcs. So this is the cool thing about movement in this game. Luke Skywalker is in Darth Vader's firing arc. If he moved differently, maybe he could have like been over here, right? Right? And Darth Vader would completely miss. And if we're going like one step above, this is kind of like how the name of the game works. You dodge your opponent's firing arc, but you have a firing arc on your opponent. But we're just going to go for the traditional things. It's a lot to take in, but it's gonna have to just go through the motions. So Darth Vader is going to shoot. If we look at his bar, on the top left we have attack dice, then we have agility dice, then we have health, then we have shield, and then we have force, which also helps you manipulate dice. So if we're looking at Darth Vader, he usually shoots 2 dice, but if we look at advanced targeting computer, while you perform a primary attack against a defender you have locked, roll 1 additional attack dice and change 1 hit result to a crit result, but we're going to cover that later. So yeah, in short, I usually roll 2 dice, but because I've locked him, I get 1 more. So now this is where the fun begins.
This is where the fun begins.
3 dice. We roll the dice. Attackers roll the dice first. So no modifications, we're just going to show how it plays out. So Darth Vader got 2 hits. Now it's Luke's turn. Actually, first we'll go through the mod actually. So they get the best result. If we look at Darth Vader, advanced targeting pure, roll additional dice, then change 1 hit to a crit result. So on an actual dice, we got blanks, we got hits, which are successes, we got eyes, that if you have the resources you can change to successes, and then we have crits. You want this or this. Crit is even more devastating. But yeah. So to give you a perspective of what Darth Vader can do, you can spend a force to change these eye results to hit results. And if we look at targeting computer, you can change 1 hit to a crit result if you've locked. So that is a pretty damn all successes and the best success you get in the game. Pretty good shot. Let's just say if that shot was completely garbage, which, you know, is something that's going to happen. So say you roll this, right? What can you do? So when you target lock, you can spend the target lock after you've rolled dice to re-roll any number of dice. And boom, you have that. But unfortunately, once you spend that, you can't change the hit to a crit anymore. But I'm gonna spend 1 of my force to change this to a successful hit. Alright, now it's Luke Skywalker's turn. So Luke usually rolls 2 agility dice, but because he's further away, range 3, he gets an additional defense dice. If he was closer, Darth Vader would be rolling 4 dice instead of just 3, so he'd get additional. But because he's further away, Luke gets rewarded for his further away positioning when getting attacked. So let's roll. So Luke got 2 evades, so he managed to block it all, which is cool. But for the sake, let's assume. So you know how I said these eye results? You can spend a force to change 1 to an evade. If you focused, let me get that. So let me get these eye results back in. If you spend your focus, all eye results become successes. So that's the power of like choosing a focus. But yeah, and if we look on Luke's card as well, let's assume he had no force. After you've been declared as an attack, recover 1 force. So it just gives him that extra defensive utility. So this is the meat and bread of the game. Let's assume though that Darth Vader keeps his best result in the game, and then sadly, this is all that Luke got. Let's say this, right? So Luke can spend 1 force to change that to a success, and then this resolves. So the evade cancels out all hits first. So he cancels out this. So this goes away. And then we're left with hit crit. So luckily, Luke has 2 shields. If he didn't have the shields, it'd have be a more devastating crit result. So he loses 2 shields. But let's assume he had no shields. So he'd draw a damage for the hit result. And then this is the more devastating one. You flip it. And basically something bad happens. It was a better representation. But yeah, fuel leak. After you suffer a crit damage, suffer an additional damage. So you can imagine how painful that can actually be. But that's basically how attack and defense dice work. One part of the phase I forgot to mention was the system phase. So system phase is quite straightforward. If you know like upkeep from card games or something, before anything happens after the planning phase, your ship does something. So this could be as simple as in my system phase, I gain a focus, right? Something like that, or I get to do an action. Just that's basically what system phase is. So you plan your movements, you both give each other the thumbs up. Then system phase happens. If you've got any system phase that give you any advantages, you take them. Then you do movement. No, then you do action phase. So you move and then you choose an action. Then it's combat and then it's end phase. So the end phase is relevant. Let's assume there's an objective token in the middle. Well, if I could snap that to the middle, place objective. So once again, going back to the ogre representation, this when you're close by, at the end of once everything's happened, a round ends, right? Once all the phases end, the round ends, and then you move on to the next round. So if you're close to an objective, you get a point, right? So you both get a point. Unfortunately, I can't. Well, for some reason, the numbers aren't moving. But anyways, you get a point. So assume that's on 1. And obviously, you need 20 points to win. So imagine the second or third shot kills Luke. So I would gain a point from this objective end phase, and I'd gain 5 points from killing Luke. So I'd be on 6 points. That kind of gives you like an idea of how this game is built. You want to shoot your opponent while taking little damage yourself, and then you want to play the objective game. Now the objective game in miniatures could be, you know, being close to this, picking up what's an example? Let's say this is like a crate. You could pick it up as your action and carry it. That's basically how it works. But yeah. So moving on, one last thing. While all this craziness is happening, you're getting shot at and stuff, there's actual debris. Right. So actually, first of all, I'll give you like an idea of like, I'll show you the kind of like nature of this game. So let's assume Darth Vader does a 1 straight, and Luke does a K turn. So let's see how this works out. So Luke's gonna move like this. See if he can move. Oh shit. Right, Luke's gonna move. So they're both at each other's necks. Right, and Darth Vader's gonna move straight. So all of a sudden, they were once facing each other, and now Darth Vader's on the defensive, and that just shows you like kind of like the idea of this game, of how things are supposed to take place. But let's assume that Luke does a bad movement, and let's say he lands on an asteroid. So you get punished really hard for landing on asteroids. So first you take a damage just straight up. You take a damage straight up, and then you roll for another. And if it's a crit or hit result, you just take another damage. And to add insult to injury, when it's attacking phase, your character can't attack. And to add further insult to injury, you cannot take an action, so you can't take like a focus that could give you like a better defense. So that just shows like the painful punishment that can take place in this game. But yeah, I've kind of just covered like all the basics for this kind of like beginner video. I'm going to be moving on to these like more intermediate concepts and just try and show them in video form. So yeah, thanks to anyone who's watching, I hope this helped anyone beginning the game, and I'm going to be showing some more advanced concepts now that you know the basics of the game.